Good morning, friends. Hello. Hello, hello. Good morning. Hello, hello. Good morning, Hello, gang. Good morning. Hope you're doing well this morning. All the beauty of the day. Hello, Yvette. Good morning to you. Hey, Cecile, good morning. Hope you're doing great on this beautiful day. Good morning, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Have a little mug up. Good morning, gang. Hello. How are you this morning? Hope you're doing well. Find ourselves here. All right, all right. Got a great weekend coming up here at beautiful First Congregational Church. We are going to, on Saturday morning, where there's a group of us and you're invited to take part in the First Step In 5K, which it's a walk. Don't worry, we're not going to beat anybody up too hard. We're going to take a nice amble, but as a way of supporting our local homeless shelter, the First Step In. And so if you want to take part in that, that would be awesome. We're going to meet here at the church at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. The walk starts at 9, so we're going to go down to the shelter, which is just a block or two away. But if you'd like to be a part of it, I really invite you to be here at 8, right around 8 on Saturday, and it'd be great. We're going to go for a little 5K walk through the city. It's going to be a beautiful way to support the local homeless shelter here and the incredible work that Annabella and their staff do here in the city of caring for the least of these, and it's our ability to help support that. So, hey, good morning, Jamie, Bonnie. Hello to you. Good morning, Vicky. And if you'd like to, after so we're going to take part in that a Saturday, and then Sunday we'll gather together for worship. We're actually going to begin the first of a 4-part series, really, but a series from the Gospel of John, so that we have we're going to take this deep dive into what is love. This big question of this thing that we say it's all about. Well, what is it, and what are we supposed to do with it, and how are we supposed to engage this love that God has given us, and how are we to be in this world with it? So we're going to take 4 different stories from the Gospel of John and take a look at that, because so I'm looking forward to that. I hope you are too. But today, welcome everybody. Hey, Irene, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Good morning, everybody. It is the 10th day of August on this Thursday at 11:11, and I'm glad you're with us, and I'm glad to gather in our sanctuary with you. I have been away for a couple weeks, so I've missed this space. So I wanted to bring us all here to remember the beauty of it, to remember the majesty of it, and to remember, and that which is one of the things I think our sacred spaces bring us, is just this reminder that there are things greater than us. And there are things that are beyond things, that are not even things, as in God himself, who is greater than we. and that we can rest in that, and that we can trust that. So I wanted the beauty of this place just to speak to you for a moment today. So I want to talk about this phrase that we that is throughout the Gospels in Jesus's teaching. That we hear again and again and again, that we are, and that I think calls us to this idea of what it is to be in right relationship, what right relationship really looks like. And it is this, that you will undoubtedly have heard, that the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. We've often heard this, and we often hear it as a sense of a way of being a servant, right? Of being that it's really ours, that we can come to the world with a sense of servanthood, of being useful and being helpful to the situation in which we find ourselves. Then there's a way in which, if we don't put our own agendas and our own needs and our own wants and all that primary and just go out in the world using it as if it were a big grocery store just to get all our needs met and just to be transactional with everything that we meet, but rather that it is a banquet for which we are to bring our most sweetest dishes, and that when we do, everyone feasts. That this notion that we hear it that way, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I also think there's a deeper sense to it, which I want to talk a little bit about today. And I want to talk about it in the sense of this story that of one of the one of my American heroes, quite frankly, a guy by the name of U.S. Grant. So if you undoubtedly know, Grant was a general during the Civil War. In many ways, he was the general during the Civil War. And he was best friends with William Tecumseh Sherman. And both Sherman and Grant actually end up really being the architects of the Northern victory and the preservation of the Union in the American Civil War. When the Civil War ends, and I'm indebted to Ryan Cole for this story from his Stoic books, which are terrific, by the way, if you're ever, but this is a story from one of his books. When the war ends, Grant and Sherman heroes doesn't even begin to put it together how powerful and how grateful the nation is. Literally anything they say they want at the end of the war they could have, whether it's political office, whether it's whatever it is, that they end up and they are pursued mightily for both. And both men have a radically different response. Sherman is pursued for Grant, however, would be quite different. Grant, however, would express his Grant would end up pursuing the presidency and gaining it, and mostly because Grant was hounded for this in the same way Sherman was, but Grant didn't quite have the temperament to say no. Grant was the very thing that made Grant the great general of the American Civil War was his inability to play politics and his unwillingness to play politics. That he was truly an honest man, and that he would oversee in his presidency the most corrupt presidency, the most ineffectual presidency, in a time when the nation actually really needed incredible leadership, that he would actually fail. And then after the presidency, it would get even worse, that he would pair up with this guy by the name of Ferdinand Ward. And Ferdinand Ward was the Bernie Madoff of the day. Ferdinand Ward he set up this kind of intricate financial scheme in which Grant went all in on. And what he would do, and he would lose everything, and he would go bankrupt publicly before the entire nation. And Sherman, when he reflected about his friend, he said this. He said, Grant aimed to rival the millionaires who would have given all that they had to have won any of his battles. that even the greatness of a Grant, who had who accomplished so much, who did so much in the preservation of the Union, in the leading of men, in the fighting of war and battle, and the overcoming of that, would not be able to succeed at all afterwards. The last great thing that Grant does, because he was truly an honest and honorable man, that he takes out all these loans and he writes his memoirs. And in the writing of his memoirs, while he has this horrible throat cancer, while he's in tremendous pain, that his memoirs and the sale of his memoirs would actually leave some sort of legacy for his family, which was really at that point his great concern. That it's such a tale and it's such a story, particularly when you compare it to the story of Sherman, that would say who says no thank you to all of these opportunities to be kind of elevated, to be more than he had been, and to bring more, and he pursues that which he wants to. He writes and he speaks, but he truly doesn't get involved in these wider matters and has this ability to simply say no to them. That Grant just couldn't seem to muster. That Grant, when asked and when pursued and when courted, just keeps falling into these traps. So back to our scripture. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. We can see that through as we've been taught about it, like in this servant sort of way. But we also have to understand, I think, that within us is this notion of what we're putting forward in this world. What are we going to call first, and what are we going to call last? That we have to name these things. That we have to say, are we going to put, what are we going to put first? What are we going to put last? And so that, because something in here is going to be first and last. Something in here is going to and that I think in many ways this is a failure. What the failure of Grant was the failure to not simply come at it as a servant, because he was an honest servant. He was truly an honest man. But it is this notion of understanding what he could place first in his life and his world. Not the cacophony of all the voices that said, we need to be president. You're a great president. Please, General Grant, save the nation once more time. The great mystic Hildegard of Bingen says this. She wrote this in the 13th century, I think. Like billowing clouds, like incessant gurgle of the brook, the longing of the soul can never be stilled. The longing of the soul can never be stilled. Friends, here's the thing about the longing of the soul, that she's right. It can never be stilled. So we better be really attentive to what we are going to permit it to long for. You see, the first shall be last and the last shall be first is telling us, set your first things first. Set your most important things first, and let those and place the things that you are willing to serve, and let them play themselves out. What Grant couldn't do was understand that the longing of his soul and that truly curate the longing of his soul. We all have restless hearts, and they will all get the best of us. And again, he didn't do what he did for malice and forethought. I don't even think it was ego on Grant's part. This is one of the things that I don't think it was because he was all puffed up with, like, oh, I'm a great general and I can do great things. I think he's truly a man, if you look at his life, of desiring to service. But what he couldn't come up with is what was going to be first and what was going to be last, and how the Lord was going to turn those things to use in the world so that the things of our own kind of aggrandizement would be reduced, but also the things that we would that 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 we would think are are castaways or broken, that would also be elevated and made whole. The great Phillips Brooks, one of the great preachers of the last century, of the 19th century, said this. He said, "Bad will be the day for every person when they come when they become absolutely contented with the life he's living. When there is not forever beating at the doors of his soul some great desire to do something larger." I think not only is there a desire for us to do something larger, but there's also a desire for us to, but we must know it. And Brooks is talking about kind of falling asleep to that. But I would say that Grant, even in his attempts at greatness, was also falling asleep to it. And I think, and I wanted to talk about all this, and I want to talk about this in this space, because here's how I think all this comes together, is that we're in an age when it is so, and I say this a lot, I know, but we're so easy to fall asleep, that they're the cacophony of the world, and it's not that we fall asleep, it is just who we truly are and how we truly are and whose we truly are is constantly bombarded by the loudness of the world, by the loudness of the voices that would convince us to either aspire to greatness, or the voices that would convince us to lay down and be quiet and shut up and just die already. You see, it's all the same thing, that all of these voices, whether they're the nattering voices of negativism that would come upon us, or whether they are the idea of like, you can be anything, whether they're the great aggrandizing voices of the age, both of them are in this way of taking us away from the first things and the last things of who we truly are, of understanding what the fact that our hearts and our souls are always going to be in longing, and that they are only at rest when we rest in the Lord. And that resting in the Lord means that we have a sense of who we are, how we are made, what both God has called us to, but also what we are truly made to and for. We can say the much harder task, I really believe, the much harder task for a U.S. grant would have been to take the path of Sherman, to actually have turned down all the invitations and all the things, because of this way in which he hadn't quite grasped, or was overwhelmed by the voices of his day. Friends, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. This is not a grading exercise. This is a reality in our own lives. That the best thing we can do about this is not try to game the system, not try to get some favor with God, not try to sit at the right hand or the left hand of the Father, not try to get some special seating up front, not try to work really hard, not try to look really good, none of those things. But the best thing we can do is simply be honest with who we are and whose we are, and what our strengths are, what our gifts are, what our shortcomings are, what our wounds are, what our hopes are. Because all of that has been planted and held by the one who made us. You know, the Orthodox Church talks a lot about the passions. And the passions and they call them the passions, all the seven deadly sins. They call them the passions, lust, rage, like lust, anger, greed, all that kind of stuff. They call them those because they make us passive. Because they make us, that when we are consumed by gluttony, all we want is some more mouth pleasure. That's all we want, is to feel our bellies tight and to stuff it. And we become passive to that force. All the other things in our life, all the other things are the family that we have to love, the society that we have to do, the job that we have to do. We are the body that we've been given to care for. All of that goes away when we indulge in our gluttony and we just shove stuff in our pie hole. Like all of that they literally, they're called the passions because they make us passive. And poor Grant's story, I think, is not a story of ego or of greatness or of reaching beyond his means so much as it is a story of passivity, of just getting carried away by the voices around him, getting carried away by the buffaloing and the shenanigans of Ferdinand Ward and in his Bernie Madoff pyramid scheme way. And friends, my hope, and I think that the invitation of our age is to truly map out and truly know our first and last. Truly know that which we're called to, and and trust God to work with. Trust God to give it to us. Trust God to lift us up into places that we're going to be placed and to be of service, but to truly and first, like Sherman, to know whose we are and who we are. And that with all the noise of the world, with all of the passions that are swirling around us, we can not be passive in them, but we can be filled with the glory of God at work in our being and at work in our lives. Which is, again, as we close up, why I wanted to bring us to this space today, that we might look at these incredible windows, that we might take up the beauty of these chandeliers, that we might look at the gorgeousness of this woodwork, and that we might remember that we are part of something so much greater than ourselves, with so much more beauty, and that we, in our appreciating of it, in our opening of it, and in the beauty of it, we can know our first and our last, that there's a place for us in that. That it's not all the things, but it's also not none of the things. That in all of it, in the whole world and the whole life of our being, what really matters, and the way God's operation in what really matters in our life, is us being true to what God has planted in us. So that's my hope for you today. And as I said, we will be off and walking on Saturday, and we will be, and so if you want to come be a part of that, that would be terrific. We'll be 8:00 here at the church, and then we'll be worshiping on Sunday at 9:00 in the morning. Peace and grace to you, my friends. It is so great to be back, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.